Yeah.
Please
No,
join
most
us in
welcome. I think she is
well.
a friend, first of all, and of course, been working with her for a long time. So I have seen her story, amazing story. She is actually the pioneer of private equity space in India. And I can go on, but I think at the moment, let her. I think I thought that she has led the way for private equity in India. As a woman entrepreneur, as a woman, she's now managing billions of dollars. Okay. The next step I felt was for private equity to think global. How do we become global? And therefore, I told her that give your views, give your ideas, and let us interact a little bit so we can give direction to the whole private equity industry to go global. And that's welcome, Renuka. Thank you so much. Once again, like many other friends here, on the spur of a moment, I said, come. She said, I'm there. Okay. And she's so busy. Usually, I would not have courage to ask her to come. But I think, thank you, Renuka, for coming. Welcome.
Thank you, Nishith Bhai. Um, Nishith Bhai is somebody who I really admire when it comes to building relationships and being solution oriented in his business. He's a great friend. I owe a large part of multiple success also to the confidence Nishith Bhai gave me when I stepped away from a large institution called ICICI. So I'm forever grateful to you, Nishith Bhai.
Thank you.
I've grown personally and professionally under you. So
I'm very proud of you.
thank you. Real privilege and honor to be here. And I don't want to go on and on with my speech because I really feel all of you might benefit a little bit more if I provided more time for Q&A. It was when I was listening to Mr. Kabir Bedi and Shekhar Kapoor and others, and I said, my God, from this wonderful, imaginative world, why has Nishith Bhai tricked me, to talk about mundane, deal making and money and so on and so forth. So I was a bit relieved that there was gradual landing when we had the Revigo entrepreneur here. Um, but what was interesting about whether it was Mr. Bedi and Shekhar Kapoor's session or Revigo is people. Finally, I think we have to recognize whether we are a lawyer or an investor or an actor or a filmmaker, we are human beings and we connect emotionally. It is the strong purpose for doing something that drives us rather than money. So lot of people ask me, hey, why do you still continue to, kill yourself, work so hard? What more do you have to prove, right? So it's not the next deal that is motivating me or the next paycheck that's motivating me, but the sheer fact that one can play one small role in this very important world of channelizing risk capital to powerful ideas, thereby driving the economic cycle, the economic engine of creating employment, creating wealth, and building a prosperous society is very, very motivating, irrespective of my age or the number of years that I've spent in this industry. So more than globalizing private equity, what I wanted to share with all of you is that each one of you as professionals in this industry have realized in the last 10 years how much this private capital has driven the growth of India. Today, we are talking about an economy which is kissing $3 trillion GDP. Our Prime Minister has laid a vision to become 5 trillion by 2027. I think it's very aspirational. Is it doable by 2030? Very likely, yes. And in that scenario of the next 7 to 10 years, we have a very important job on hand. The job on hand is to push the needle of this $40 billion, circa 40 billion, 2021 was an exception with 60 billion, of alternate capital that we channelized into this country to about 100 to 125 billion per annum. That's the job on hand. And all of us know that we live in an ecosystem. Nobody can do this job single-handedly. No Blackstone can do this just by themselves. No multiples can do it by just by themselves. We live in an ecosystem. The ecosystem has to drive this power and message and make it believable for the investors to bring in this kind of capital. In that ecosystem, you are a very, very important partner. Now, partnership as a concept is most easily understood by a law firm, right? It's difficult to explain partnership to a manufacturing company. Very easy to explain partnership to a professional firm. That's your core nature. That's how you are born. But you think of partnership in a very logical, intuitive, natural way when it comes to working within the firm. Within the firm, we are partners, right? We eat from the same pot. If we are collectively successful and we are a collective failure or a collective success, and so on and so forth. But for our country to move from this 3 trillion to 5 trillion and onwards at a meaningful speed for the purpose of creating employment, for the purpose of inclusion, for the purpose of bringing the many have-nots to haves, which technology is today helping, right? 10 years back, we couldn't think of providing fashion, providing education, providing content, providing access to rural India. Today, everything is possible. What it takes is only imagination, and technology and all the other infrastructure is very, very supportive. And there is a lot of capital waiting at the gate. This capital needs confidence to come in. And that confidence can be given only by you. You working with all the other partners. So the submission I have, or the suggestion that I have, is especially for a firm like yours, and I'm not saying this because there is an obligation to placate Mr. Nishith Desai. He doesn't need it anymore. I don't think he needed it even 20 years back. But he is a true role model. He brings certain values of thinking for the client, thinking ahead of time, thinking 5 steps ahead, saving for the entire transaction and not thinking about, hey, what will be my billing cost and can I make little more money of this transaction? Now, these are fantastic virtues you have in the founder of this firm. Can you take those virtues and make it a way of life? So one of the challenges we face when we work with law firms and lawyers is that they think of themselves as professionals. I need to give the right and honest professional advice, and that is why I am here. Can we continue like this? Of course we can continue like this. We may get to from 3 trillion to maybe a $3.5 trillion economy in another 5-7 years. If we want to push ahead like a well-charged, engineered engine, then all of us have to be solution finders. And we can't think of ourselves as, I am a lawyer, I am a financial expert, I am a commercial expert, I am an investor. We all have to come together for the larger goal of driving this industry. And therefore, each of you have to be a solution finder. And the moment we do that, the velocity at which we will work, the confidence we will give to our counterparties, which in turn will give confidence to the investors, the number of problems we will save, and therefore the amount of destruction we do of capital and enterprise will come down, and we would have put ourselves on a virtuous path. So that is one message that I wanted to share with you. Can you think 5 steps ahead? Can you be a guiding force for your client and or for people like us who are investors, rather than say that, hey, this is my legal opinion. Now you take it or do what you want with it. Instead, like Nishith Bhai, can each of you be that solution provider, thereby just driving up this engine? The second thing that I have observed from my limited worldview from multiples is that when it comes to foreign companies, somewhere Indian firms, Indian born firms, while Nishith Bhai was the first one to go and set up offices overseas, your firm has done extraordinary work in terms of creating legal frameworks for it to be born industry. Nishith Bhai, you will remember way back in ICICI when Mr. Shekhar Kapoor was there, we had the whole discussion with Mr. Kamath as well and the government on how do we make India a great filmmaking destination and what kind of tax incentives we need and what does UK government do and so on and so forth. So Nishith Bhai is a person who is thought of first when you think about the next industry. I know the amount of work your firm has done in blockchain and so on and so forth, way ahead of time. So that's your natural DNA. Your natural DNA is to think ahead in terms of new industries and how legislations and legal frameworks have to be born for those new industries. Can you also wear the other hat of who is my client? As opposed to saying, I need to give a legal opinion, can you think about my client needs a solution? And today when we have, this is what my team tells me, that when we have companies like Neo where we have invested or Dream 11, we are forced to look at international law firms for dealing with the documents of US incorporated companies. I think your firm probably has the capability as well as any of these foreign firms. I guess probably a little more attention in terms of specialization, in terms of communication of your specialization to our industry, in terms of saying, and also building the network with other international investors, because you start with a document, because people like us are not the first investors. How can your firm step up in terms of giving the same level of confidence as some of your international peers are doing? Because increasingly, as we discussed earlier in the first session as well, these borders are going to blur and one day going to become quite irrelevant. Am I an Indian company? Am I a Delaware company? Am I a Cayman Islands company? Is going to be quite irrelevant. And even as a firm in multiples, I'm thinking that why should I think of an Indian company? I need an angle to win the deal. I need an angle to create value. So can I think of Indian entrepreneurs? Can I think of Indian talent as areas in which multiples can expand? So likewise, in your case, how do you bring that, your proficiency to the market and make the market believe that we don't need a Goodwin or we don't need somebody else in the international market for those transactions? Will give you, another vector of growth. And lastly, I would say, to bring my ecosystem point to bear, can the lawyers, the financial analysts, and the investors, at least the three of us, come together and say that if we have to give confidence to international investors, if we are the driving force of this economic engine, how should we reorganize ourselves, our mind, more importantly than our work? Because your professional capability is just the same. The way we package, the way we present, the way we think, the speed, the importance that we give to speed, to solution finding, to confidence building, averting a problem 5 years from now, which is, that every bust we have is a confidence killer, right? And then we take another 5 years to build the confidence of the investors to come back. How do we avert these future accidents would go a long way in building an economic engine which will drive the growth. So I will just stop here and happy to take any number of questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Thank you. Wonderful, I think, exposition, and so kind of you to think of our firm, the future. And just as a matter of response rather than question, if I may just tell, the way in which we look at the future and future of law firm is that our role used to be compliance at one time. It's all compliance, right? Compliance will be all automated. Next phase from that to transactions. So today we spend a lot of time doing transactions and all these billable hours and whatever you call it, right? I believe 80%, 70% of transactions will be automated with blockchain in next 5 years. With smart contracts and stuff like that, maybe you'll need only 10, 20%. What is the next stage?
Yeah.
Next role will be more on the strategic side and strategy value addition to our clients. So we believe that next role will be more strategic. Number two, crisis management, ethical issues.
Fantastic.
And these are the things that these are softer side.
Yeah.
Because that is where we are able to or we will be able to add value. So we are preparing ourselves using technologies to see how you can make us redundant. You have to make ourselves redundant, right? And that's the next thing. Already our team is working on technology and stuff like that. Other thing that we have looked at is that we are now a purpose-driven firm. I think Carl Mehta you talked about it. And we have defined our purpose of why do we exist, even as Nishith Desai Associates or NDA, I would put it more in personal terms. Is there three-dimensional? We can't be unidimensional like we want. We have three-dimensional purpose. Number one, of course, to do client work.
Yeah.
Our objective is to do highest quality work in shortest possible time with smallest teams, okay? Because business model is so skewed, if you spend more time doing your work, you are more rewarded. So it breeds inefficiency, number one. Number two, that, we want to do highest quality work in shortest possible time, okay? With smallest teams, because it's not about head count, but it's about brain count, as I say. Okay, so we always work on a small team, and we want to move forward towards that using technology as a part of it. So that's the first part of it's a three-legged stool. Second, and a very important part of our purpose, we exist to foster next generation of socially conscious lawyers. So just breeding lawyers for commercial gain that is not something that we exist for. So imbibing social purpose is very important. Ultimately, we want to serve the society. We are only servant leaders in that sense. So that's the second purpose, to foster next generation of socially conscious lawyers. And third is to shape the future of law, what you just mentioned. So we try to do, we'll do the next 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, look at what new technology will be coming, what new business models are emerging or would be emerging, what will be new social, political, economic development that will be taking place over 10, 15, 20 years, and visualize today what will be the future strategic, legal, tax, or ethical issues, and write a lot of papers for them. So we are in the state of preparedness, so future ready. That is what is our approach to the practice, and it's an age of competition. It's not any longer age of competition. So we cooperate and compete. So almost all the research work we do, and I think I'll be happy to share a few works on that as well, with entire legal community. You will see n number of opinions. They have copy to copy from our research papers, but we never bother about because we believe in the profession of law. So we respect our, what we call competitors. We cooperate, compete. It's competition to us. Again, most of our work is in the US, where they teach you all jungle words. Wild West, competition, you must have killing instinct. Okay, I say we should have winning instinct. Yeah. Okay, there's a poaching. Okay, we never, in last 30 years of our existence, our philosophy, we never go and poach any lawyer from any law firm. People come with passion, stay with passion, okay. Even if they go with, they still continue to remain passionate for the firm. So idea is so we have never gone and headhunted. Yeah. no headhunter visits us because they know that's useless time with us. But, so that's the other part of the game.
Absolutely.
Third thing is that, today, you really need to find solutions, as you mentioned. And if you have to find solution, you also have to prepare your competencies. And therefore, we are trying to learn not only from legal industry, from other industries as well. So like, as you know, innovations happen, and we have been ranked constantly as the number one law firm in the innovation space by Financial Times of London. But we say it is not. There are others also innovation. So idea is to innovate new things, new solutions, new ways of doing things, and that is where the art lies. You
Absolutely. Yeah.
have to invest huge amount of money, time, expense, etc. In new things. We believe it to develop a new specialty, takes about 7 years, but hype lasts for 3 years, because once hype comes, everybody wants to get in. So within those 3 years, you have to reinvent yourself. If you don't reinvent yourself, so speed of change, what you all mentioned earlier, I think we have to come to grips with that. I think these are a few thoughts that I'll just give you a perspective on. And before I forget, this is the latest. This is our latest compilation of research papers. That's all with QR code. About 60 papers we wrote. Let me give you this, and also to this is the latest, of course. Kabir, and these are all the research papers, whether it is nanotechnology, nanomedicine, to designer babies, to 3D printing, to all those things. So I'm very happy to be sharing with you. Of course, you've seen some of them before.
Many of them before, and your firm was the leader, took the leadership in
so
that.
I think I thought it will be a privilege for us to present this to you. But this was a small response. I thought I'll give you how we think. But we always learn from you, and we want to learn from you. Please keep on telling us your ideas. Thank you.
Couple of suggestions I have, Nishith. By everything that you said is absolutely fabulous and spot on in terms of where the world is going and what the role of a law firm and lawyers like all of you would be. So I see two opportunities actually. One is, our investment banks today in India are not the investment banks that they used to be when I started investment banking. I have seen situations where Hemendra Kothari would tell a CEO saying, you have to do this, or you should not do this, right? And carry through his argument. And given the respect people had for opinions of whether it's Nimesh Kampani or Hemendra Kothari or any of these stalwarts in investment banking, things would get followed through. Now I find that investment banking in India has become pretty transactional. You kind of get into the company, look at its financials, look at comparables, go out and market, and people of that eminence, who can kind of literally be the coach to the entrepreneur, have become few and far between. And I feel that lawyers spend the most time understanding the deepest anxieties or problems of a client. So there is a great opportunity for law firms, especially given your DNA, given your founder's DNA, to kind of, how do you step into that role and thereby facilitate the right things to happen fast. The second opportunity that I see, since all of us are interested in doing good work more than just making money, is when in the course of a transaction you find that an entrepreneur's intentions are not what they ought to be, or the drift of the whole transaction is going to result in a breakage. It's just a matter of time. I don't want to take names. All of us know the names. Those breakages, those collapse have huge distraction value. They really bring down decades of hard work of all of us in 1 minute. Right? And we have also seen that it is not one transaction that goes wrong. The moment something is called out in one company, there are 6 other companies, the same thing is called out. And the whole international market is taken by shock. And people like me, when we go begging for money, instead of talking about this compelling economic growth, fantastic demographic dividend, inclusive growth in India, digital technology is bringing new business models, you are spending that 1 hour defending something that went wrong. As a country, we have no time. Our children need jobs. Our people need to be fed, right? We cannot have poverty. We cannot have a non-inclusive growth. Technology has given us some great investments in fiber, some great investments in 4G and 5G, has made access possible. And then you have people like Mr. Garg, who have looked at a very traditional problem in a very humane way, which is just so touching. And we see stories like this every day, 10 stories like this every day. So there is phenomenal social orientation in entrepreneurship today in India. People are not saying, I'm becoming an entrepreneur because I want to become rich and I want to own a Rolls Royce. I want to build a bungalow and I want everybody to be envious of me. Every entrepreneur is talking about how can I bring about improvement in a vast millions of people, right? And along the way, giving opportunities to many other millions who are young and who need to make a career. So can we avoid these derailments? Since you are in that pivotal spot, that perfect spot where you can sense this because your brain is trained for sensing these things, right? Unlike even an investor where, there could be a very amateur investor, there's an amateur issuer, but as lawyers, your brain is actually conditioned to, are we bridging the gap or are we expanding the gap? नियत क्या है? ए आर्ग्यूमेंट एक क्लॉज के पीछे आप इतना डिस्कस कर रहे हो, इसके बैक थॉट क्या है, right? And how is this going to go forward and derail the engine? And it is just a matter of time. If you put that as your obligation, I think collectively we will drive much faster. We will stop these headwinds coming and stopping our growth from time to time. These are my very, very humble submissions. I'm nobody to advise such a wonderful firm, but I just wanted to share my own feelings in a practical way. So please don't think that I'm coming and teaching you all.
You're
There's
too
nothing
humble.
but huge respect for all of you. Yeah.
So I had a question where you need to teach us. So, first of all, thanks for the fantastic insights on various issues that you raised. Uh, all of us are very inspired by you with what you have achieved in your life. And this type of success cannot come without certain core beliefs that you must be carrying 24 by 7. So if you can just share with us your top 3 core beliefs that have made you who you are today, I think that would be helpful for the audience.
Great question, Nishchal. I hope I'm able to answer this properly. So the first core belief I'm born with is just sheer hard work. I've never till date, with all the great technologies that has come, found a solution for just hard work. You have to apply yourself fully into what you are doing. That's the only way you're going to be, successful. The second core belief for me has been honesty. The only thing that has changed is when I was a younger professional, I would say it in an unacceptable way, right? Without any sensitivity to the room. Today, also I say it, but with sensitivity to the room. And I will stand upside down to make sure that something should not happen, will not happen. It doesn't matter what it costs me, right? So, and all of us are transactors and we are constantly dealing with money and people, right? So, complete honesty is my second core value. And the third is I have an ability which I've used to my hilt of putting myself in the other person's shoes. Maybe it's my investment banking training or what it is. I can exactly feel what my entrepreneur feels. And therefore, the solution that I give in any extant situation, and no two situations are the same, are something that connects the entrepreneur completely emotionally. Right? So the messages I get from my entrepreneurs are, I've left it in your hand, I'm not even looking at it anymore, right? I know you will give a fair solution. I am who I am because of what you did to me, and so on. I don't allow these things to go to my head. I'm simply kind of sharing that actually putting yourself, and it's not that difficult. It's only the first step of wanting to do which is difficult. The moment you cross that, you can actually get into the entrepreneur's shoes. What are you asking him to do? You're asking him to put X percentage in ESOPs, do a transaction which is going to make his own future uncertain. You're trying to do something which will maximize your value but makes his life quite miserable. So, for instance, in my case, wives of my entrepreneurs will message me saying, Renuka, you have looked at what my husband is trying to do, right? And you are completely comfortable. Then we sleep well, right? So, building that trust by literally dissolving yourself. You don't exist there. You just live for the other person. Are some of the things that either I'm born with or I've kind of cultivated. And for me, relationship is everything. And as all of you know, we have put the P in multiples in red to give energy to people and partnerships. Only people, and we are in the value creating game, and we want to remind ourselves every minute that it is not the coolness of the industry or the coolness of technology that you have backed that is creating value. It is the people behind that enterprise and the spirit of partnership with which you have nurtured the enterprise that's creating value. So at no point of time will a decision be taken which compromises that spirit of partnership, and giving the importance to the people and relationships. And I've time and again seen complete magic, total magic coming out of this strong, trusted partnership. It has been my, I would say, experience, and I've benefited from it right from my ICICI venture days. And to therefore take it forward in multiples was a fairly automatic journey. And how much an entrepreneur feels enthusiastic and confident to go out and try for something which is deeply buried in his heart. He feels this is something fantastic that he can do, but not sure whether he will get the acceptance of the boardroom, right? Whether it's the investors or whatever. The moment you inspire that confidence, the moment you do the risk management, have controlled experiments possible, make the entrepreneur realize that, hey, every leap I'm taking, I'm coming out a winner. So I can take slightly larger leaps and build a company beyond my imagination. This has been a repeatedly successful model. So trusted partnership, investing in huge relationship, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and being completely honest and transparent to the core are things that have repeatedly worked for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Renuka, I have a question.
Yeah.
I remember, listening to you on other occasions, and you had said that you had looked at buyouts at a very early stage of your professional life in the private equity industry. So, what has been your experience in the buyout model in India, applying it as a PE fund manager? What lessons would you have learned?
Yeah. So my most fascinating examples are from the buyout space. In terms of number, they are still much lesser, but in terms of value, now we are seeing that very, very large buyout transactions are happening. Unfortunately, it's the foreign firms who are operating in India who are able to cut the check. One of my personal aspirations is also that multiple should be able to cut those $1 billion of checks. But Buyout has been, so I want to share one example which unfortunately till date touches my heart, like how Deepesh was talking about truck driver's life. So I purchased a company called ACC Refractories. So, I mean, what can be more boring than refractories, right? What is there in a refractory? It is just some cement and other material put together, right? We bought this business because Wholesome was taking a stake in ACC, and Wholesome's global board had taken a view that refractories is a polluting business and we should not have refractories on the day we make the purchase in ACC. So this transaction had to happen in a time-bound way. And so I put in a bid for it. I knew the CFO on the other side who was selling. He called me up. He was too smart a guy. And he said, I think this is your lucky number. Can you move it to your next lucky number? You know, next higher number. So I said, okay, in the interest of getting a transaction done. Went to Nagpur to meet the team, meet the larger team. So short of being hurled stones at me, everything else was done by the workers. Who are you to buy this business? We are told private equity guys buy business to sell. And for 4 generations, we are working for ACC. And here I am nurturing dreams that my grandchildren will also work for this company. And this complete misfortune has befallen on us. Some completely unpud, people who know nothing, called private equity, whose only job is to buy and sell companies, have come and bought this company. And the CEO is trying to defend me from all of these workmen and others. And somebody else from the management team stood up and he said, you paid this kind of money to buy this company. Do you know, until 2 years back, we were loss making? Do you have any sense? Do you even know what you have done? Now you will put leverage in the company. You will sweat us all out to bail you out for the stupid mistake that you have done, right? So this is how the journey began. And our first board meeting, my CEO, who was conducting a board meeting for the first time, I chose to be the chairman of the company. These were early days of buyouts. I had to literally pave the way of how a buyout to be done. We are sitting like this, Nishith. So he obviously is doing a first board meeting, is very nervous. Up until then, the only mandate the CEO had was, don't send me a loss. The CFO of the parent company will say, when it comes to consolidation, I don't want a red number from you. Baki tum jo marzi karo, humko paisa mat pucho, humko loss nahi dena. Right? This is the brief. Now you are in a totally different context where you are the driving force. You have to create value. And he is nervous that he is talking to financial investors who are very numerical, very astute. So he puts up the first slide. Delhi sales up by 60%, right? So he wants to kind of immediately please me. So I told him, Mr. Deveshwar, he was actually ITC Deveshwar's brother. So I said, Mr. Deveshwar, just close the presentation. Let's talk about R&D. So he literally, he said, are you in your senses? I mean, do you really want to know about R&D as private equity? And the head of R&D guy was half asleep. He just shook his head and woke up and he said, R&D? I never even thought I'll get a chance to open my mouth. And do you, Chairman, really in the first board meeting want to know about my R&D? So our journey began like this. 11 unions from Katni and Nagpur came to meet me. I didn't want to meet them in our own office. They'll think, hey, owners log bahut rich hai. So I met him in a little more sober office, gave their mouthful of galis to me and said, who asked you to buy this? We don't want to work here anymore. I heard them all out. 11 different unions in that company. And my legal guy was very worried. Mr. Deveya used to be my head of legal. He was trying to protect me. He was trying to keep some police ready and all of that. Ki bande kya kar dalenge. I told him, you relax, kuch nahi hoga. At the end of the meeting, I said, मैंने सबका सुन लिया है. अभी मैं जो कुछ भी बोलूँगा अच्छा ही बोलूँगा. आपके सामने तो मैं बुरा नहीं बोलने वाली हूँ. और इसी क्षण में आपको बहुत मीठा लगेगा, बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. जैसे ही आप दरवाजे से बाहर जाओगे आपको याद आ जाएगा कि मैडम की बात को मैं यकीन कैसे करूं. जब वो बोली अच्छा लगा, लेकिन वेदर शी विल एक्चुअली निभाव इट, वो तो आपको डाउट आ जाएगा. फिर आप वापस वही स्थिति पे चले जाओगे कि यू विल नॉट बिलीव मी. ऐसे ना, हम एक काम करते हैं. 1 साल के लिए मैं आपके ऊपर पूरा भरोसा रखने के लिए तैयार हूँ. आई एम गोइंग टू आस्क यू नथिंग. आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू गिव यू unquestioned trust. Can you give me unquestioned trust for 1 year? So they all felt that was a reasonable deal. I said, 1 साल के बाद इसी दिन आप कैलेंडर में नोट कर लीजिए, मैं आपको नागपुर में आके मिलेगी. और आपको किसी प्रकार का अगर तकलीफ हुआ हो, कोई भी कंप्लेंट हो, तो तभी मैं सुन के उसका सोल्यूशन निकालेंगे. 1 year, let us just trust each other. I went back after 1 year. There was absolutely no complaint. I called up my CEO. I said, settlement is coming. You will be fair. I don't need to profit at the cost of putting lath on the stomach of these workers. You will be absolutely fair to them. We pushed the R&D. We challenged Calderus, the largest French company in alumina binder, in their own market. They came and bought the company from us. We did generous stock options. What gave me utmost happiness, and even today I can cry on this, is how confident we made the management. Each of them saw their self-worth. That I can go and challenge a RHI and Calderus. My products have that kind of strength. They grew their business. The R&D guy came into limelight. The marketing guy came into limelight. Deveshwar felt I'm a worthy CEO. They knocked the charts in terms of profitability. But above all, when we sold the company, we gave 1 gold coin to every worker in the factory. And we went to Nagpur. They took Aarti and did Aarti to each of us. You know, me and my team, saying, हमने ACC में 4 पीढ़ियों से काम करके जो नहीं कमाया, मैडम, आपके अंदर 3 साल में हमने कमा लिया है. So that is the power of our product. Now, how do we replicate this? How do we make many more millions realize their self-worth? Because each of us have gone through it. Were there not moments when I thought I cannot get up and work? It required people like Nishith Bhai to say, hey, Renu, you're capable. Chalo karo. Right? And then आगे जाके हीरो बन जाते हो और सोचते हो कि हाँ ये सब मेरे वजह से हुआ. मेरी वजह से नहीं हुआ. I had so many people around me who have encouraged me in my worst of times and shown me the way. Of course, I have walked. I have done the hard work. Can we do this to many millions, right? That's the acceleration for me in this job. Sorry, Arvind, for a very long story, for a straightforward question. Yeah.
Very inspirational.
Yeah, Vaibhav here. I do a lot of private equity. I've worked with you on delivery also, but recently ESG as well as climate change
Yes.
is becoming very important.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, and I wanted actually your view to see how that will affect the private equity's role and private equity's way of functioning, how climate change and ESG will become critical in their role when they are investing and they are guiding the entrepreneurs, and what role they will play, and what do you think?
Yeah. No, great pertinent question, Vaibhav. So again, to be very honest and tell multiples journey instead of just giving a theoretical answer. So when we did our first fund in multiples, we had an external ESMG consultant. And my brief to my team, we all collectively agreed, check the box, boss. When CDC comes for review, हमको problem नहीं आना चाहिए. Right? In the second fund, we said, ये check the box से काम नहीं होगा, थोड़ा तुम अपना भी बुद्धि लगा लो, make sure that we don't get into a problem. Beyond CDC coming and doing an audit, that we shouldn't enter a problem. Third fund, we said ESG is our differentiator. Now, for mantra for multiples is that going forward, my investors should say that when I invest with multiples, it's not only that I get top quartile returns, but I build finest companies who become role models for everything that is to be upheld in a company. So what have we done? We have built a complete team out internally, besides a battery of advisors. And the amazing thing about Indian entrepreneurs today is, 20, 30 years back when they would have looked at all of this as costs and the needless thing to do, the way they are embracing ESG. You should see some of the conversations we have, with experts, whether it is about environment or about diversity or about inclusion. The participation that comes from portfolio companies, the amount of ideas that come from them are quite mind-blowing. So I think as an industry, I feel confident to represent that we are, each one of us, going to wear it in our sleeves, champion this. And it is not that these things just make things expensive. This is just the right way to do it. Otherwise, you have no right to exist in the future world. And there is a tremendous amount of knowledge sharing that is happening, volunteering that is happening, and where we are able to push this agenda. So,
just one incremental question here. What is your expectation from partners like lawyers, law firms, and us on ESG? How do you think they can, what they should do to make what you are doing on ESG better?
yeah. So, as I said, I would say, especially given that I'm talking to a bunch of lawyers, every conversation in a transaction, right? Every item you pick up when you do a legal diligence of the past is giving you a message about the core DNA of the company and the mindset of the key people in the company. Please don't be transactional. When certain things can tickle you, certain things can just send alarm bells, certain things can cost you a night's sleep, right? Upfront it. Have a conversation, figure out without causing any indignation or causing any kind of long-term negative impact on the company, to give the message to the right person so that only right transactions happen in the company, only worthy entrepreneurs take capital, is all I would say. So the most popular mistakes in the past used to be, I don't have to comply with minimum wages because I have pushed the problem on my contractors, right? So when you go and say, ask for the contractors' books, they will make some other story. Everybody in the game will say, okay, ignore it. I have legally tightly packaged it. So even if something blows, Renuka, multiples will not come under any threat. It's not acceptable anymore, right? So it's not about multiples will not come under threat. Can multiples sleep well? Having been a party to something, it should not have been a party. So bring it up and act with a holistic kind of perspective is all I would say. Sorry for being repetitive on that point, but I think that's the only way to make it work. Yeah. I think I've taken way too long. All of you deserve a good lunch.
I think we deprived you of a lunch, number one. But I just want to react to a few things that you mentioned. First of all, even as lawyers, for example, we have been well known for tax. Today, even if transaction or structure is legal, first thing we tell our clients that if this is perfectly legitimate transaction, has to appear on the front page of the newspaper, would you do it, even if you succeed? If you think it does not, possibly let us not do it, even if it is legal. So I think the way in which we think also have to undergo change because we shape the behavior of the client. That's one thing.
Highest influence as well.
Yeah, exactly. So and in all aspects, that is what is coming up. You go beyond the letter of law and see what are the new situation that you're confronting, because reputation and many other things are more important. You may succeed at the end of the day, but you may damage your reputation or even the perception of a company, you know. So that's one thing. And of course, since time is running short, one of the reasons why I chose this subject of some discussion on internationalization of private equity, if we can take some point in time future, my heart goes out on continents like Africa. Indian private equity has come of age. You will make a lot of money, there is no doubt about it, because opportunities in India, abundance, I think. So money making is not any longer an issue. You will get good exits, good everything. But can we now begin to contribute to the dark continents where we can transfer our technology and private equity? I know it will not be very easy, but to learn about what can we contribute to the outside world. And we have enormous amount of flexibility, as Kabir and everybody said, you know. So what can we do? And today we are most respected, both in terms of technology, in
Very
terms
fair
of
point. Yeah,
that was the one of the things that I thought, that as an industry, we should now look beyond. We have come of an age, and we can compete a lot more with even the global private equity funds, whether it's Blackstones of the world or KKRs or whatever it is. I think we have arrived at a stage where we are able to contribute to the other economies, and that was one of the things that I think we
great
should
point. And
we should
we are happy
specifically
to
look
be
at.
your knowledge partner.
No, this is
From
just
an
one of the
investing,
things, because what next? We have done great job. We have done billions of dollars deals. We have done billions of dollars deal, and it's exciting to say that we did 10 different deals, blah blah blah. But now, how do we shape the future? How do we shape, you know? And I think particularly continents like Africa or some other Eastern European countries, wherever we go, we can now compete. Okay, and so we can take those. It may work, it may not work. I have no idea.
No, it will take a long time from whatever little experience I have
Right,
had.
right, correct.
But
as an
definitely a
industry,
course
we should
worth
study
pursuing,
that what are the opportunities for us. Even we have not done that primary exercise. Is there a scope over a period of 5-10 years or not? But we can take a lead in those geographies where I think others have not taken. Anyway, this was one of the thought I thought I'll.
Fantastic thought, as usual, ahead of the game, Nishith bhai.
It's just little satisfaction of doing something interesting.
Thank you
So
all
nice
for
of you.
having
Thank
me
you
here.
very much. It's been
and,
wonderful.
Suffering me for so long. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish the firm great success.
Thank you for guidance.